Hello, everyone. Enjoy English with Noah. Hey, English learners. Can I ask you something? Have you ever read a whole page in English, understood every sentence, closed the book feeling proud, and then 5 minutes later, someone asked you to explain what you just read, and your mouth just stopped? Yeah, I can feel you nodding. You understood the page. You followed the ideas. You knew exactly what the writer meant. But when it was your turn to explain it out loud, nothing came. This is one of the most common struggles I hear about from learners everywhere. And today, I want to talk about it honestly. No heavy grammar terms, no lecture, just a real conversation from me to you. So let's start with the big question. Why can you understand English so well, but still struggle to explain it, to say it, to use it? Okay, picture this with me. Imagine you've watched hundreds of cooking videos. You know every ingredient, every step, every trick the chef uses. You could probably describe the whole recipe from memory. But then, someone hands you the apron and says, "Your turn." And suddenly, your hands don't know what to do. Because watching a skill and performing a skill live in two completely different parts of your brain. This is exactly what happens with English. Most learners spend years reading, listening, translating in their heads, but very little time actually producing the language out loud. And that is not your fault. That is simply how most classrooms work. We were trained to understand English on a page, to pass a test, to recognize the right answer, but almost nobody trained us to open our mouths and let the language come out in real time. So your brain became excellent at receiving English, but it never got proper training in producing English. And these are two separate skills. Let me repeat that because it matters. Understanding what you read or hear is receptive. Speaking and explaining out loud is productive. You can be strong in one and still feel shaky in the other, and that is completely normal. It is not proof that your English is weak. It simply means your productive muscle hasn't had its workout yet, and every muscle can be trained. Now, let me introduce something I call the response delay. When you read English, your brain simply matches symbols to meaning. See a word, know a word, move to the next line. Quick and automatic. But when you speak, your brain has to search for the right word, arrange it correctly, shape your mouth around the sound, and do all of that while another person is standing there, waiting. That is a heavy load to carry in a few seconds. Think of it this way. Reading sheet music quietly in your head is calm. But standing on a stage and actually playing the instrument in front of an audience, that's a different kind of pressure entirely, because now every note has to happen live, with no pause button. Speaking English is like that live performance. It demands quick, real-time choices, and if you haven't rehearsed those choices before, of course your mind goes quiet. So what can we actually do about this? Step 1. And this really matters. You have to accept exactly where you are today. So many learners feel embarrassed when the words won't come. They think, I've studied for so long. Why is this still hard? And that embarrassment makes the whole problem heavier. Because when you feel embarrassed, you avoid speaking. And when you avoid speaking, you stay stuck exactly where you are. So right now, I want you to say this out loud if you can. Think of it this way. Reading sheet music quietly in your head is calm. But standing on a stage and actually playing the instrument in front of an audience, that's a different kind of pressure entirely, because now every note has to happen live, with no pause button. Speaking English is like that live performance. It demands quick, real-time choices. And if you haven't rehearsed those choices before, of course your mind goes quiet. So what can we actually do about this? Step 1, and this really matters. You have to accept exactly where you are today. So many learners feel embarrassed when the words won't come. They think, I've studied for so long. Why is this still hard? I already understand a lot of English. I am now training my voice, and that simply takes time. Did you say it? Good, because every word of it is true. Now for step 2, let's talk about output training. Most learners are heavy on input. They read articles, they watch videos, they listen to shows. Input matters. Input is genuinely valuable. But input by itself will never make your voice fluent. You also need output, the practice of building a sentence in your head and sending it out through your mouth. And here is something worth hearing clearly. You do not need a conversation partner to begin this. You can begin completely alone, starting today. Here's one of my favorite exercises for this. I call it the Narrate-It-Now Game. It's beautifully simple. You just say out loud whatever is happening around you at that exact moment. Try it right now. Look at where you are and start talking. Say something like, I'm sitting near the window. I can hear cars outside. My phone screen is a little too bright. There's a plant on my desk that really needs water. Simple, maybe even a bit funny to say out loud. But this is precisely how your speaking muscle wakes up. You are pushing your brain to hunt for words and connect them in real time. And each time you do this, it gets a little smoother, a little quicker. Don't chase perfect grammar here. Don't worry about small mistakes. Just get the words moving. That's the entire goal. Because here is the honest truth. Fluency isn't about flawless sentences. Fluency is about speed, about your brain locating words without freezing, without spiraling. And the only route to speed is repetition, again and again and again. Now, let's talk about something that quietly blocks a huge number of learners, even after years of studying. And that thing is the fear of being judged. This one is so common. Many learners are terrified of getting it wrong in front of others. They picture someone smirking, they picture the embarrassment of a wrong word, so they choose silence instead of risk. I understand that completely. But let me ask you something. When a toddler is learning to walk and they tumble over, do you laugh at them? Do you decide they're hopeless? Of course not. You smile, you cheer them on, because falling is simply part of learning to walk. Speaking a new language works exactly the same way. A mistake is not proof of failure. A mistake is proof that you are actually trying, and trying is the only door that leads to improvement. So the next time a sentence comes out wrong in English, picture that toddler taking their first wobbly steps. Be gentle with yourself. Cheer yourself on quietly, and try again. There's something else happening in your brain worth understanding here. After studying English for a long stretch of time, your mind builds a very strict inner checker. This checker constantly asks, is this right? Is that the correct word? Is my grammar clean? This checker is genuinely helpful while you're writing, because writing gives you time to pause and correct things. But while you're speaking, that same checker becomes a roadblock. It makes you hesitate over every single word before it leaves your mouth. And by the time the checking is done, the moment in the conversation has already passed you by. Has that ever happened to you? You finally know exactly what you wanted to say, but it's too late. The conversation has already moved forward. So one of the most powerful things you can train yourself to do is quiet that checker. Not forever, just for a handful of seconds. Just long enough to let the words escape. How? Through practice and through permission. Give yourself permission to sound imperfect while speaking. Tell your brain, it's fine, just say it. We can polish it later. The more you practice speaking without pausing to inspect every word, the more naturally fluent you will. And that leads us to something coming up in just a moment, the single daily habit that more than anything else can transform how you sound when you speak. Curious? You won't want to skip this part. But first, one small thing before we continue. Say this sentence out loud right now. Ready? I am training my English every single day, and I can already feel it improving. Good! I love hearing that energy. Now, let's continue, because I promised you the single most powerful daily habit that can reshape your spoken English, and I always keep my promises. So, what is this habit? It's called inner voice training, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You speak to yourself in English every single day. I know exactly what you're thinking. May, that sounds a little unusual, but stay with me for a second. Think about what constantly runs through your head during a normal day. You think in your native language. You plan your day in your native language. You talk to yourself in your native language. That's completely natural. But here's the catch. Every time you think in your native language and then try to switch it into English, your brain has to run a translation step first. It grabs your thought, converts it, then finally releases it as speech. That translation step is exactly what slows you down. That translation step is exactly what makes your mind blank out. So the whole point of inner voice training is to gradually, slowly start thinking directly in English. Not all at once, just little by little. Here's how you begin. Every morning, as soon as you're up, say a handful of plain sentences in English, either out loud or silently in your mind. Something like, "Good morning. My eyes feel heavy. I need something warm to drink. Today looks busy. The sky is gray outside." That's it. Wonderfully simple. But you are quietly training your brain to switch on in English before your day has even properly started. Then, as your day unfolds, try narrating small moments in English as they happen. While you're having breakfast, think, "This is really good. Maybe a touch too sweet. I'm hungrier than I expected." While you're outside, think, "The air feels fresh today. The clouds are moving fast. I feel calm right now." Small sentences, easy words, but every one of them is quietly strengthening your speaking muscle. Over time, your brain begins skipping that translation step altogether. Words start arriving faster, sentences start feeling more natural, and one day, someone asks you something in English, and the answer simply appears. No freezing, no panic, and you think, "Wait, did that just happen?" Yes, it did, because you trained for it. Now, let me hand you another powerful tool, especially useful if speaking with real people still makes you nervous. It's called mirroring speech. Mirroring is when you listen to someone speaking English and repeat what they say at nearly the same moment, or a beat behind them. You copy their rhythm, you copy their pronunciation, you copy the little pauses and the words they choose to stress. You can mirror a podcast episode, like this one, a video, or a scene from a show you enjoy. The goal here isn't just repeating words. The goal is to feel how English moves through your mouth, to get comfortable with its rhythm, because English carries its own particular music, its own beat, and when you practice mirroring, that music slowly starts to feel like yours. And once English feels natural in your mouth, speaking starts to feel natural too. Let me share something personal. When I was building my own confidence in spoken English, I used to mirror radio hosts, the ones who spoke clearly and with real energy. I'd stand near my mirror at home, yes, an actual mirror, and copy their expressions, their gestures, their tone. My family genuinely thought it was odd, but it worked. Because I wasn't only practicing words, I was practicing the confidence attached to those words. And confidence, my friend, is a massive part of speaking well. Have you noticed that when you speak your first language, you never really think about it? It just flows out. That's because you trust yourself completely in your first language. You're not scanning for mistakes, you're not double-checking each word. That is exactly the feeling we're building toward in English. And we build it through repetition, through daily practice, through doing it enough times that it stops feeling frightening and starts feeling ordinary. So let me hand you a simple 3-part daily routine. Nothing complicated, just 3 small actions every day. Step 1, morning inner voice practice. As soon as you wake, spend 2 minutes speaking English to yourself about your plans, your mood, the weather outside. It truly doesn't matter what you say, just speak. Step 2, mirroring practice. Pick one short clip in English. 2 or 3 minutes is plenty. Listen through once, then replay it and mirror it, matching the rhythm as closely as you can. Step 3, the Narrate-It-Now Game. At least once during your day, pause for 1 minute and describe your surroundings out loud in English, even alone, even if it feels a little silly. 3 small steps. Roughly 10 minutes altogether. That's genuinely all it takes. But if you commit to these 3 things every single day, I promise you, within 30 days, you will notice a change in yourself. Within 60 days, people around you will notice it too, because consistency always outperforms perfection. Now, before we finish today, I want to talk about one more thing that I feel very strongly about. So many learners wait. They wait for their grammar to be flawless. They wait for a bigger vocabulary. They wait until they feel completely ready to speak. But here is the honest truth. That day of feeling fully ready never actually arrives if you keep postponing it. You don't become ready and then start speaking. You become ready because you started speaking. Readiness is built through the doing, not through the endless preparing. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. You can read every guide about balance and pedaling. You can watch professional cyclists for hours on end. But you will never actually ride until you get on the seat and push off. Speaking English works exactly the same way. You have to get on the bicycle. And yes, you might wobble at first. You might even fall once or twice. But every minute you spend pedaling is making you steadier. Every conversation, even the clumsy ones, even the ones full of mistakes, is carrying you forward. So I want you to make a promise. Not to me, to yourself. Promise yourself you'll stop waiting for perfect. Promise yourself you'll speak even when you're unsure. Promise yourself you'll be kind to yourself after mistakes and that you'll keep going regardless. Say it with me. I will speak even when I'm not ready, because speaking is how I become ready. That is so true and so powerful. All right, my friend, let's pull it all together. Today, we talked about why you can understand English clearly, but still struggle to say it out loud. We talked about the difference between receiving language and producing it. We talked about the response delay and why real-time pressure makes your mind freeze. We talked about the fear of judgment and how to quiet that strict inner checker. We talked about inner voice training, mirroring speech, and the Narrate-It-Now game. And we talked about the most important idea of all, simply beginning, simply getting on the bicycle. That was a lot to take in, wasn't it? But you stayed with me through every bit of it. And that tells me something about you. It tells me you're serious. It tells me you genuinely want to grow. And that desire, that willingness to keep showing up, is the most important ingredient of them all. You already carry everything you need to become a confident English speaker. The understanding is already there. The foundation is already there. What's left now is simply training, practice, consistency, and a little kindness toward yourself along the way. I believe in you. I truly do. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode helped you in any way, please share it with a friend who's fighting the exact same battle, because nobody should feel alone on their English journey. This is Mia from Enjoy English with Noah. Keep practicing, keep going, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.